Good day, and welcome back. If you thought today's Pete Hegseth hearing was just another round of political theater, one exchange in particular cut straight to the heart of power, influence, and the boundaries between private wealth and national security.
Here now recognizes the gentlelady from Hawaii, Mr. Kuda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree we've had many performances today, but what we'd like is some answers. Mr. Secretary, did you invite Elon Musk for a briefing on war plans with China to the Pentagon? Yes or no is simple.
There's been a lot of hyperbole and incorrect reporting around that situation, but we did invite Elon over to come talk to us generally, but there was no war plans being discussed.
Okay, so whose idea was it to invite him to the Pentagon for a briefing? You mentioned you served at the pleasure of the president. Was it the president's will to have him come and be briefed?
Well, as you know, at that time, Elon Musk was leading up DOGE efforts, and we've taken a great investment in DOGE at DOD, and so getting his input on how we make DOD more efficient makes a great deal of sense.
Okay, but don't you think it's a conflict of interest for the world's richest man? Many of the contracts that the DOD is engaged in, billions of dollars of contracts going to his company, and he is, as to your point, was leading DOGE, which was involved in cutting hundreds of contracts, but also becoming intimately aware of the platforms and the requirements that would be given out for new contracts. Did you not think it was a conflict of interest to invite someone with financial interests into the Pentagon to have firsthand knowledge of what they could then bid on for their own, enrichment?
Ma'am, it was just an informal discussion, but I'll tell you, anyone that knows our Defense Department knows we show no preference to any company other than what your capabilities are, and we're grateful for the places where his companies benefit our national defense.
So for a $280 million donation, the world's richest man with companies intimately linked and involved in billion-dollar contracts with the Department of Defense gain access into the Pentagon. So would you say that any company right now that has multi-billion-dollar contracts with the Department of Defense has access to the Pentagon right now? 1-hour briefings with you, personally.
On the regular basis,
the answer
I meet with many people and many different companies and many different aspects of our defense industrial base to ensure we have the best possible capabilities. It would be imprudent to do
Well, I'm
otherwise.
sure for an investment of $280 million, Elon's investors are quite happy that it's come out into the billions. I want to jump questions right now. Mr. Secretary, on January 6, 2021, rioters and looters attacked federal law enforcement officials, vandalized and destroyed federal government property, and caused an estimated $2.7 billion in damages right here at the Capitol. Would you have sent the National Guard and the Marines in on that day?
Well, unfortunately, President Trump requested the National Guard in advance, and that was...
It took him quite a long time. I'm asking you, as Secretary of Defense, would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day? We had 140 Capitol Police officers injured. One died the next day. Would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines?
As I said, President Trump directed National Guard to be there in advance.
And I think you can look at the record of how long it actually took for him to actually send them in. But it's good to hear that it sounds like you would have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day in which the insurrection was taking place right here at the Capitol. Mr. Secretary, during your confirmation hearing, you failed to deny the conclusion that you would carry out an order to shoot protesters in the legs. So let me be direct. Given what we are seeing across the country right now, would you carry out or issue an order by the president for our military to fire upon protesters actively engaging in their civil right to exercise free speech, their First Amendment rights? Would you give that order from the president?
I assume you're insinuating what's going on in Los Angeles, and I wouldn't call
Not just
that a
Los
peaceful
Angeles.
protest.
If we take a look at protests throughout the country, it's a simple question. If directed by the president, would you order our military to fire upon protesters? Simple yes or no.
Ma'am, we have, as you know, and as this committee knows, we have standard rules of engagement that are in place that give guidance to our troops, and they abide by them.
I'm asking what you would do. Again, you said you serve at the pleasure of the president. Is that not true?
I do serve at the pleasure.
So if the president told you to shoot people in the legs, would you do so? Now, you failed to answer this question as well in your confirmation hearing when asked by members of the Senate.
Because I refuse to accept a false hypothetical that's attempting to put me in a corner and make it look like a representative.
At a time when we have more Marines and National Guard in Los Angeles than we do in Syria and Iran alone, I don't think this is a hypothetical. This is an actual situation that we are dealing with right now. So again, I will ask the question, the last 14 seconds I have, would you order our military to shoot at their fellow countrymen if ordered by the president?
I think it's interesting that for 4 years, insurrection was the left's favorite
I think we know your
word,
answer. Thank you, Mr.
and
Chair.
that
I
when
yield
it's
back.
invoked in L.A., they were
Gentlelady yields back. Gentlelady's time's expired.
And it raised questions that go far beyond a single confirmation hearing. Before we get into it, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. These hearings move fast, and we break them down so you do not miss what actually matters. The moment came when Representative from Hawaii pressed Secretary Hegseth on reports that Elon Musk had been invited into the Pentagon for what was initially described as a briefing on potential war plans involving China. The question was simple, direct, and intentionally framed to leave no room for spin. Did you invite Elon Musk to the Pentagon for a briefing on war plans, yes or no? Hegseth's answer was careful. He denied that any war plans were discussed, calling the reporting exaggerated and incorrect. But he confirmed the core fact. Elon Musk was invited into the Pentagon for discussions. That alone is significant, because access at that level is rare, and it is tightly controlled for a reason. Subscribe now if you want context like this every time these moments happen. When pressed on whose idea the invitation was, Hegseth leaned on a familiar defense. Musk, he explained, was involved in efficiency initiatives, particularly connected to DOGE-related reforms, and the Department of Defense wanted his input on cutting waste and improving performance. On the surface, that explanation sounds reasonable. The Pentagon is massive, bureaucratic, and notoriously inefficient. But this is where the conversation shifted from logistics to ethics. The lawmaker pointed out something critical. Elon Musk is not just an outside efficiency expert. He is the world's richest man, and his companies hold billions of dollars in Department of Defense contracts. SpaceX alone is deeply embedded in military satellite launches, communications infrastructure, and national security capabilities. Inviting someone with that level of financial exposure into the Pentagon creates a serious question of conflict of interest. This is not about whether Musk's companies provide useful services. They clearly do. The issue is whether someone who stands to gain financially should have privileged access to inside knowledge about future needs, platforms, and contract directions. That kind of information can shape bidding strategies, investor confidence, and market dominance. If this kind of analysis is helpful, subscribe now so you stay ahead of the headlines. Hegseth dismissed the concern, describing the meeting as informal and insisting the department shows no preference beyond capability. But that answer sidestepped the core problem. Influence does not always look like favoritism on paper. Sometimes it looks like access. Being in the room matters. Knowing what decision makers are thinking matters. And when billions of dollars are at stake, informal conversations can carry enormous weight. The lawmaker sharpened the point even further by referencing Musk's previous refusal to clearly deny carrying out an order to shoot protesters in the legs. That phrase is not hypothetical. It echoes language that is circulated in past discussions about crowd control and domestic unrest. These hearings are not just about one nominee. They are about the standards we accept, the precedents we set, and the guardrails we expect our institutions to uphold. Make sure you subscribe so you do not miss the next critical moment. We will continue to follow this hearing, break down what is said, what is avoided, and why it all matters to you.